Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Waterloo Wednesday, where we are talking about student supports at the University of Waterloo. We're very glad that you're able to join us. A few notes as we get started. I wanted to let you know that you are able to turn on live captions for this session by clicking on the three dots in the center of your screen and then clicking on Turn on Live Captions. Also, a reminder that you can ask questions throughout. There is a Q&A feature where you can submit questions on anything you're curious about as we go, and our staff working away behind the scenes will ensure that those are answered. And we will also have a Q&A at the end of the session as well with our speakers. And of course, you can send any follow-up questions to us at liaison@uwaterloo.ca. I should introduce myself. First of all, my name is Laura. I use she, her pronouns. I'm one of your hosts of Waterloo Wednesdays. Jay is off this week, enjoying a well-deserved break. But don't worry, we've got a great lineup of guests to share their expertise. Once again, I am a national recruiter for Waterloo, and I'm a graduate as well from the Honors Arts and Business program, where I majored in French during my time at Waterloo. As we begin, I wanted to let everyone know and acknowledge that at the University of Waterloo, much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, which is the land granted in legally binding treaty to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Waterloo's active work toward reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within our Indigenous Initiatives Office. As a descendant of settlers myself, who has spent most of my life living on the Haldimand Tract, I acknowledge my place within the history of colonization in Canada, and I commit to constantly learning, unlearning, and examining my biases as I support the reconciliation work that needs to be done within the university, the region, and Canada. It's my intention to create an environment of inclusivity in this space today, and so I ask that you also take the time to acknowledge the land that you are located on as well. Now, if you're curious about what we're covering today, we will let you know, as always, about our upcoming events. I've got an interesting story of the week to share, and we'll get into our main presentation on student supports before doing our weekly world famous almost quiz, and then going into the Q&A to wrap things up. And don't forget that quiz is a chance to win your own Waterloo hoodie if you haven't won one already. Of course, lots of ways to stay connected with us, including this weekly series of Waterloo Wednesdays. We have 3 more wrapping up at the end of May. Of course, we've got virtual campus tours happening every week, and you can order brochures online. I've posted a link to that in the Q&A. And you can always email us at liaison@uwaterloo.ca or check out our very helpful Beyond Ideas and Future Students websites for more information. Whoops, scrolling a little too far here. Okay, so let's talk about our story of the week. So I know Jay brought you a story somewhat related to COVID last week, and I think you can tell how excited we are about things like vaccinations and, getting in some outdoor freedom again sometime soon, because I've got another story related to some research that's being done on campus. And that is that researchers at Waterloo are working to develop a new COVID-19 test that can be administered at home using saliva. So no more stick up your nose, which aims to deliver a positive or negative test result in less than 20 minutes. So it's a potential solution to the current delays in receiving test results that can take days or even weeks, and of course a much more pleasant option too, especially for people who require frequent tests. So the hope is that tests will become available over the counter at pharmacies across the country fairly soon. And this project is being led by 2 Waterloo professors, Shushanta Maitra, who is a professor of mechanical and mechatronics engineering, as well as Ju Wen Liu, who is in Waterloo's chemistry department. So again, something very exciting that we're working on. Not we, I'm not involved in it, but that individuals within Waterloo are working on, and that we're hoping to see some great results on fairly soon. Okay, so with that exciting story done, let's go on to another exciting component of our session, which is introducing our speakers. And we're going to start off with Leslie, if you'd like to say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself, Leslie.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Leslie. I use she, her pronouns, and I work out of the Student Success Office as the Orientation Assistant Coordinator. I'm also a Waterloo graduate from the Faculty of Health and the Therapeutic Recreation Program. I graduated a few years ago now, and I've worked in the Student Success Office kind of throughout my undergrad as a co-op student, and then in some varying other positions since graduating. So happy to be here tonight, and hopefully we can get some of your questions answered.
I'm sure we will, and we're happy to have you, Leslie. Andri, we'll get you to say hi next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andri Evstathiou. I'm an academic advisor in the Arts Undergraduate Office. I've been advising for just over 12 years. I am a Waterloo grad as well. I go by the pronouns she and her, and I graduated with an English degree a very long time ago.
Not that long ago.
Long.
Kobisha, would you like to say hi next?
Hi everyone, my name is Kobisha. I'm a second year student in the Health Studies program in the Faculty of Health, and I'm really excited to be here to answer your questions about student supports that I found valuable and any other questions you have as well.
So thank you once again, Leslie, Andri, and Kobisha for joining us. We're really glad to have you today, and I'm sure our audience will get lots of valuable information from what you've got to share. So it is, of course, the time of year that students are starting to make their decisions about which university they might attend next fall or which institution. And as they do so, they're thinking about what each institution has to offer. So of course, that includes the supports that are given to students as they begin and progress through their education. So to start off, Leslie, could you tell us a little bit more about the Student Success Office where you work and maybe share what your office's role is within the university?
For sure. So the Student Success Office, or as it may be referenced a couple times throughout the presentation tonight, the SSO, is here to help students achieve success. So success looks different to everyone. Therefore, we have a wide range of support and services to help students both in and outside of the classroom. So we help new students just like you get oriented with campus, provide academic development support, such as study skills coaching, leadership development opportunities, and international student resources. So we kind of dip our toes in a little bit of everything, and we're here to kind of help you in all corners of your university experience.
Yeah, I was going to say it covers a lot within the office, and so we'll have a lot to cover during the session today. Okay, so when we think about success at university, oftentimes the first thing that comes to mind, particularly for high school students as they're thinking about it, is academic success. And while it's important, and we want to remind our listeners today that success can and should be defined by more than just grades, we would like to know a little bit about how students can find support related to their academic endeavors. So Andri, perhaps you could talk about that.
Yeah, of course. So academic advisors are available in every program. So in your first year, you will be assigned an academic advisor that can support you. Academic advisors, in the simplest explanation, help students reach their academic goals. But advisors are more than this. They mentor, support, refer, and help students navigate through their years of study, offering resources and knowledge that can impact a student's experience and overall success.
And I remember going to see an academic advisor in your office for the first time when I was a student and just feeling like everything was impossible, didn't know how to navigate things. And one conversation with Susan was so helpful. So yeah, definitely recommend taking advantage of that resource. And so a follow-up question for you there, Andri, is about the transition from high school to university. And it's always challenging for students, and oftentimes they'll see a change in their marks from grade 12 to first year of university. So I was wondering if you have advice for students who might see such a change and worry that something's wrong.
Many students will experience a drop in grades, which is completely normal, but often that drop is still a good or even a great grade in university. You also have time in first year to get better and get the supports to improve grades or skills needed to be successful in your academics. This may even include changing your direction or your field of study, but you have time and we have the supports in place to help you.
Absolutely, and it's really just a matter of asking for help when you need it, right, and finding those supports. Okay, so we'll go to Kobisha for our next question. And so Kobisha, sometimes students tell us when we're talking to high school students that they heard that Waterloo is a really competitive place to be a student. So could you talk about whether that's been your experience and maybe where that perception might come from?
For sure, yeah. So I would say that this has definitely not been my experience with the level of competition. And it's definitely a misconception that people have about Waterloo. And although there is a level of competition to get into the program of interest, as many of you may be waiting on programs or you may have heard different things, this does not at all equate to the competition that you might see advancing through the program. In my personal experience, once I was in my program, I found that the biggest competition was really just myself. And it was about making sure that I put in the hard work and that I improved each time with each course, each exam, whatever it may be.
And in fact, we encourage students to connect with each other, to form study groups and work on projects together. And because ultimately, a lot of the challenges that you're facing are being faced by the students around you in residence and in your classes as well. So it's good to kind of get to know some of those other students. And so, Leslie, I was wondering if you could talk about some of the peer supports that we have in place, or opportunities for students to connect peer to peer.
There are a ton of peer programs across campus. The first opportunity students will have to connect with a peer is during Waterloo Ready, which will take place this summer as you kind of get ready and get started and get excited to begin your time at Waterloo. Waterloo Ready is a program designed to help incoming students navigate their first year at Waterloo. There are also peer success coaches in the Student Success Office, and they are upper year students who can connect with you for advice about study strategies, time management, and other academic skills. There are also a ton of opportunities within your faculty, residents, and through the Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association, or WUSA, through their varying clubs and whatnot. So again, there are kind of peer program opportunities across campus.
And for students who might benefit more from those more formal supports, like finding a tutor or attending workshops, what resources are available on those fronts?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are the peer success coaches. So these are upper year students that have kind of been through it all already and are ready to share their tips and tricks that they've figured out throughout their time at Waterloo with you. There's also drop-in tutoring in residence, there's study skills workshops, and then there's a program called Tutor Connect, where you can find tutors for particular courses. Your TAs and profs are also excellent resources. I think something everyone experiences coming to university or starting university is being slightly intimidated by professors or TAs, but it's important to not be afraid and to really connect with them if you need help. They're honestly there to support you, they're there to challenge you, and they're there to see you succeed. So they're great people to turn to when you need advice or need a question answered or whatnot.
Yeah, one thing I learned late in my degree was that professors actually like getting to know their students and connecting with them, whether that's over email or in office hours, going to ask questions and that sort of thing, especially in the current virtual environment, I find. So excellent advice once again. Kobisha, are there any workshops that you'd like to talk about, maybe from your own experience, or other resources that you or your friends have used that you'd particularly recommend?
Yeah, for sure. Like Leslie mentioned before, I found the study skills workshop offered by the Student Success Office to be really valuable in helping me learn about my own study strategies, but then also how to improve and incorporate other strategies into my learning. Some other workshops that are really helpful that I found were workshops offered by Campus Wellness that focus on health and well-being and mindfulness, which is a really important topic to make sure that you keep in mind while you're in university when things can get a little bit difficult or challenging or just new in general. It's definitely important to keep in mind your mental health. And then another resource that I would recommend for students is whether you're in the co-op stream or not, the Center for Career Action puts on some great workshops that are career and job focused. Anything from being able to learn how to write a resume, job interview skills, or even planning your further future education and career.
Awesome. Yeah, once again, a lot out there that can be recommended to students. And we'll get you to hang around for the next question, Kobisha, which is, we're kind of shifting gears a bit. So talking about another aspect of success at university, which is personal development. And we have lots of student leaders who come to the University of Waterloo. So what opportunities are there for those students who want to continue to cultivate their leadership skills at school?
Yeah, for sure. So there are a number of different opportunities for leadership at the University of Waterloo. The first main one being the Student Leadership Program offered by the Student Success Office. And this is a program that is meant for you to explore and enhance your leadership skills in the form of a series of workshops, leadership experience, and then final of reflection component. And once you've completed all of these, you'll receive a certificate that you can show for your leadership development, which is a great way to really put yourself out there and get that personal development. But on top of that as well, there are so many different opportunities for leadership across campus in different departments. As Leslie mentioned, when you join clubs, you can take on many executive roles. That can be a really great way to develop your leadership skills. And then even within athletics or residence and any other campus partner, you can really find great leadership roles to take on.
And whenever I speak to current Waterloo students, I'm always amazed by the number of leadership roles that so many of our students get into so frequently. It's really inspiring. Okay, so another aspect of personal development that many students tend to be excited about, and I know something that I was really excited about as a high school student looking at university, is the opportunity to travel during their time as a student. So Leslie, could you talk about exchange or study abroad at Waterloo, as well as maybe some other travel experiences that are available to students?
Yes, exchange is an incredible way to kind of experience abroad. You can spend 1 or 2 terms abroad while earning credit towards your program and your UW degree at one of our many partner schools, and we have over 100 partner schools around the world. So there are lots of options available. Each one kind of specializes in certain areas, but there's definitely lots of opportunity for you to travel somewhere you may have always wanted to go to and explore and kind of study there as well. Planning this does take some time though, so I do encourage you to look into exchange or study abroad opportunities early, even just as you're thinking about your university career ahead of you. Not saying you need to have everything ironed out in your first week of university, but just something to keep in the back of your mind. It does take time, and it is important to work with your academic advisor, as I'm sure Andri will talk to a bit in a minute, but it's definitely important to kind of loop them in on what you're hoping to experience throughout your undergrad, so they can help you with that more.
Yeah, and we will go to Andri for our follow-up question here, which is, so how does that work in terms of a student's academic schedule? Do students get transfer credit? And what happens if they're in co-op? Can they complete an exchange still?
So depending on their program of study, students do have the option to attend an exchange, generally in 3rd year. They get transfer credits that appear on their transcript as a credit or CR grade. Co-op students can go on exchange and can actually combine a work term abroad before or after a study term abroad when possible. So that's always a really good option. And as Leslie mentioned, working with your academic advisor and the faculty exchange representative, you get the support that you need to kind of make those decisions. Some programs have specific requirements, others are a little bit more flexible, but we'll support them through that.
Wonderful. And Leslie, I know you've had some friends who have done some international experiences, so do you want to tell us a little bit about some of those maybe?
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, I did not take advantage of these opportunities while studying, but I had a few friends that traveled to places such as Paris and different locations in England and whatnot. And those I know and I've talked to about their experiences look back on these extremely positively. Not only did they enjoy the courses they took, they also found these international opportunities as great ways to kind of stretch and grow themselves as individuals. Going abroad, maybe the first time that you're traveling alone, the place you go to may speak a different language. You kind of have to build a new community while you're out there. And so all of these things kind of maybe outside of your comfort zone. And although it may sound intimidating, international exchanges are a great way to learn more academically, learn more about yourself, learn more about the world, and so much more. It's really an opportunity that you can kind of take a hold of and make it your own. So.
Absolutely. And I know many students take some time to travel if they're living in another country, another part of Canada, or whatever it may be, to do a bit of travel around the region or even the continent while they're traveling or doing an exchange as well. And Leslie, once again for you, for those students who are particularly interested in international perspectives, I know we have the Global Experience Certificate. So could you tell us a little bit more about what that is and why students might want to pursue one?
Yes, so the Global Experience Certificate recognizes a student's accomplishments in internationalization at home and abroad. So this program allows students to develop skills that will help them stand out to employers, enhance intercultural interactions, and develop language skills, experience intercultural immersion, and get a competitive international advantage, get recognition for their experience studying or working abroad, and then as well as gaining an understanding of the interconnectedness of systems and practices in local and global contexts.
Yeah, and once again, for any student who might be interested in getting some of that international experience or working towards the GEC, you're welcome to take a screenshot or maybe take a look at the recording of this video after if you want to refer to these links again. But those emails and websites in the lower left corner there are really helpful resources for learning a little bit more. And actually, I'll post them in the Q&A and announcements in just a second. Okay, so Leslie, we've talked about Waterloo students, who might be from all over the world traveling internationally, but we also have many international students who come to Waterloo each year. And so could you talk about the support services that we offer those students who might have, different needs than the Canadian students who come to Waterloo?
Yeah, so in the Student Success Office, we have a team of dedicated immigration consultants to help international students with their immigration documents. So whether that be your study permit, your work permit, anything like that, they're there to answer kind of all of those questions and help you through those processes. We do have specific pre-arrival and orientation programming just for international students. And then we also have an international peer community to help international students meet new people and learn more about Canadian culture and kind of connect with upper year students who have probably felt the same things you're feeling now coming to Canada and the University of Waterloo. And so that international peer community is a great way to expand your new community at UWaterloo.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good takeaway too, is that if there's a problem you're facing, whether it's having a tough time with a course or having a hard time connecting with other students, it's very likely that another student has faced that same obstacle before you, and that we have supports in place in order to address those challenges. So once again, attending sessions like this is such a great start for becoming aware of the supports that are available, so that once you get to campus, whether that's virtually or hopefully in person fairly soon, you'll know where to go. Again, whether you need to know where to go in terms of on campus or which website to start with. So of course, a major contributing factor to success is also health, and that's both physical and mental. So Leslie, what resources are available to students to ensure that they're keeping healthy during their time as Waterloo students?
So campus wellness and athletics offer a number of resources for students. So from workshops to activities to recreation facilities. There are a lot of opportunities to stay active, eat well, and take breaks from your studies.
Did we lose you there, Leslie? Oh, sorry, you're done. Okay.
I think I'm back here. I think it may have just glitched out there at the end, but I think I got my point across there.
All good. Yeah. And I'll remind our audience too that if you check out our playlist of Waterloo Wednesday videos on YouTube, we've done previous sessions, one of them all about campus wellness, and then a recent one about athletics and recreation as well. So if you're interested in those topics in particular, definitely check out our Waterloo Wednesday playlist on YouTube. And if you're not sure where to find that, you can post in the Q&A and we can send you a link as well. Okay, so we have talked about supports for academics, personal development, and health, but students might also be curious about what supports are in place to help them maybe connect with other students more socially, students that they can identify with, whether that's looking for religious, racial, cultural groups, supports for women or members of the LGBTQ community, and lots more. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some other resources that we have to offer students when it comes to finding success or building success for yourself on campus. And part of that is the Waterloo Undergraduate Student Association. So this is, the official voice of Waterloo undergraduates, and they're responsible for advocating for the needs of Waterloo students within the institution, as well as with all levels of government, whether that's local, provincial, federal. And they manage over 200 student clubs. They also have a variety of different services and offer events throughout the year. In particular, they have things like a bike center, they have a food support service, the GLOW Center for Sexual and Gender Diversity. They are also home to RAISE, which stands for Racial Advocacy for Inclusion, Solidarity, and Equity, the Sustainability Project, and lots more. So there's some really important resources offered through WUSA, and those clubs that they support are an amazing place to start. You can even drop in on Clubs Week to find some other students who might share your interests or discover new interests. We also have the library, a very important academic support. And when I say library, it's really libraries. I think we have close to 10 of them scattered across campus in all different buildings and faculties, and even some of our residences. So of course they offer the library services that you might think of, loaning books and journals and giving you access to all kinds of web resources too. But they also have things like board games and study rooms and some great places to get coffee and snacks on campus. So definitely resources to take advantage of and check out. And then we also have chaplains on campus too. So the Waterloo chaplains are members of the clergy, leaders of religious groups, or spiritual mentors who provide a presence on campus for students from 11 different faith traditions, as well as for students who identify as non-religious. There's a central chaplain's office in the Student Life Center where students are welcome to stop by at any time. And there are places of worship found on campus as well as in the nearby community. You can also find a number of multi-faith prayer rooms on campus and different programs and events like Bible study, meditative yoga, and even Rap with the Rabbi. So lots of different ways for you to make connections on campus. Okay. So we will move on to our weekly highlight, which is of course our quiz. So we'll give Kobisha and Andri and Leslie a little bit of a break here before we open things up to our audience Q&A. And it looks like our Q&A is not too busy today. So if any of our audience members have questions that you'd like to submit relative to our topic of student success, or have questions about specific supports that we offer, send those in now and we'll make sure to cover those in the Q&A and get answers for you. But we will move over to our quiz next, and we've got a few questions for you. So for attendees who are with us for the very first time, I want to let you know how the quiz works. There's one very important thing to know, and that is that you need to send in all of your responses on one line. So if you send in the answers to the questions one at a time, we won't know who's sending in what. So you've got to send these all in one line with your email address before you hit submit, and you can include your first name in there if you'd like to as well. So the first two respondents to get all three questions right will win your very own University of Waterloo Warriors hoodie, and we'll follow up with you if you are one of our winners today. So if we're ready, I'll just get a drum roll. I've really been meaning to work on that. I'm so sorry, everyone. And we'll go right into the questions. So our first question this week is, what does the acronym GEC stand for? And this was in relation to one of the international opportunities that we offer at Waterloo. Our second question, name one of the workshops or tutoring resources offered through the Student Success Office. So Leslie talked about a bunch of those earlier, and I think we've got about a half dozen or so different answers that we'll take for that one. And the third question, what is the name of the office that provides academic and leadership development, exchange and study abroad opportunities, and other support resources to Waterloo students? And to be quite honest, the name of this office is in one of our other questions, so there's a heavy hint for our group today. All right, so we're waiting for some responses to come in, but as we have students submit those, we'll go ahead and tell you what the answers are. I don't see any correct responses yet, so if you want to send them in now, you are welcome to. Oh, okay, so the answer to our first question is, of course, Global Experience Certificate. The second question, we would take any of peer success coaches, Tutor Connect, connecting with professors or TAs, drop-in tutoring, study skills workshops. You could probably guess other ideas and you probably could accept them as correct as well. I know there was a procrastination clinic that I always meant to get around to taking and never did, but one of these days. Okay, and our third question, the response is, of course, Student Success Office. So I'll take a quick look at the chat here to see if we've got a winner. Of course, it might take a little while for the chat to load, so we might have to move right on to our Q&A. Oh, looks like we have got a couple of winners. So Kamal and Ariane. All right, so we'll follow up with the two of you to let you know how you can claim your Warriors hoodie. All right, and then we will dive straight into our Q&A for this week. See if we've got some questions coming in here. Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to ask that I know I'm getting this question a lot from students these days, and I'll pitch this question first to Andri. Recognizing that it's going to be different for every faculty, can you give us a general idea, Andri, for those students who are planning to register with Waterloo for next fall, when course selection takes place and kind of what that process looks like?
Yeah, sure. So once you accept your offer to Waterloo, you'll start to get all the different communications from the different units that will support your transition into university studies. And one of the emails that you will receive at the beginning of June is about course selection and what that process looks like. It's very detailed. There are videos to explain it, and that helps you sort of through the process of picking your courses for the fall. Some programs are a little bit more structured, where there's specific courses you have to take. Others you're a little bit more free to experiment and take different potential majors that you're interested in.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway being, we'll let you know, but you don't need to worry yet. We'll send you emails in June about what your next steps are, and you're not missing out at this point by not registering, because registration isn't open yet for courses for next fall. Leslie, there was a question that came in about drop-in tutoring. Specifically, what is drop-in tutoring? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely looks a bit different seeing as we're in the online world. So I don't know exact specifics of what that program looks like now. Again, there is that Tutor Connect website. If you, on the Waterloo website, just look up Tutor Connect, you'll be able to find some resources there. It is a separate site. However, it does have like a partnership with the university, but that's a great area to look for individuals that have signed up as tutors for specific programs. As for the drop-in tutoring, I believe it's mostly offered by the residences. They'll have kind of like drop-in study session type things with upper years. And so I'd encourage you to reach out to housing or if you are staying in a residence, to ask your residence Dawn or whatnot for those resources available to you.
That was something that I remember not knowing about as an incoming student, but hearing about from some of my classmates was, you know, some of our first year math courses, they offered tutoring in residence for students. So that was a really convenient opportunity to be able to connect, and also sometimes it's a little bit less intimidating for first year students in particular to be able to connect with upper year students relative to, you know, walking up to your prof at the end of class and connecting that way. There is one question that I wanted to respond to. One student was wondering how they might connect with an upper year student in the program that they're interested in. So my main advice there would be, if you wanted to connect fairly directly, you can send us an email to liaison@uwaterloo.ca, which is up on your screen here. But you can also do a quick Google of like Waterloo Engineering ambassadors or Waterloo Science ambassadors for whichever faculty that you're interested in. Because for most of our faculties, we do have students available who are more than happy to chat over email or perhaps set up a time for a phone or video call to tell you what it's like to be a student in that program, maybe give you some insight into what virtual learning looks like, or what learning in person normally looks like, which we'll hopefully get back to very soon, with, of course, more information coming about that within the next couple of weeks for our students who are looking at joining us for fall 2021. So just doing a quick Google search of Waterloo Ambassadors for your program or your faculty of interest is a really great place to start to potentially connect. One thing that one question that I'd like to send over to you, Kobisha, is again getting a little bit more of that student perspective. Were there any supports that you really wish that you knew about in first year that you maybe discovered a little bit later in your Waterloo degree?
Yeah, for sure. Just as we were talking about drop-in tutoring, I think there's sometimes a little bit of stigma about asking for help. So I would definitely say that for me, it was the drop-in tutoring sessions and the study skills workshops offered by the Student Success Office that I really wish I took advantage of within my first year, because that transition from high school to university can be really different and can be very new for people. So it's definitely a great idea to take advantage of the different supports that are offered by the university. Another thing that I would say for sure is just getting involved. And that's like one of the best ways that you can get support. Getting involved is a great way for you to make friends, make some connections, and create a support system for yourself. So that's another thing that I would definitely tell first year students to take advantage of.
Thanks so much for sharing that, and I completely agree with everything you shared there. Leslie, I know I've heard from a few students who are thinking ahead to orientation for next fall, and I know that plans are still being worked out for that and will be communicated soon, but could you tell us a little bit more about some of the programming that's going to be offered over the summer for Waterloo Ready for incoming students?
Yeah, for sure. I was going to build off your point there about ways to get connected with upper year students, but this is a great way to do so. So as an incoming student, you'll kind of be automatically opted into Waterloo Ready, and this will consist of some, I don't want to say course work because it's not a course, but I guess some, asynchronous information for you to look through on your own time, and it breaks down a bunch of resources, ways to get involved, different things you'll experience in your faculty or in your program throughout your time at Waterloo. But then there also is the side to Waterloo Ready that is your peer community, and so you will also be kind of auto dropped into a peer community specific to your faculty, and possibly even as specific as to your program. And so that's a great way for you to connect with upper years there, as well as incoming first years. But any questions you have for upper years, there is kind of this peer support and peer community for each faculty through Waterloo Ready. So keep an eye out as more information probably comes your way very soon about that. But that's a great way for you to start building those connections with upper years.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Leslie. And Kobisha, I'm going to ask you another question. It's totally okay if you don't have a response to this one, but I thought since you're in health studies, maybe you might have some insight. So I know when things transferred online, one of the big questions was, what are labs going to look like? So maybe you yourself have had some online lab courses, or you have friends who might have told you about some of theirs. Do you have any kind of insight that you could share into virtual labs these days?
Yeah, for sure. I think coming into university for me, I know the student who asked this question was just wondering about how they've had virtual labs for high school, and now they're confused about what that might look like in first year. The first thing that I want to say is once you're in your first year, everyone really understands that this is a new experience for you. Different high schools may have done different things. So we understand that everyone's lab skills may not be all on the same level. So if labs were to happen in person, for me, I found myself being, there was great instruction for how labs work and how I can manage all the materials and the equipment. So I would say definitely do not need to worry about where your lab skills are at in terms of having the virtual experience and then going in. But then in terms of a virtual lab itself, I found them, I was a little skeptical about the virtual lab and what that may look like, but I found that virtual labs were still a really great way to get that experience and hands-on experience of what a lab might look like in person. And it may just be a little bit different in what you're doing, but the theory is still going to be the same, and the way you apply it may just be, on a computer screen. But I've heard of different physics labs, for example, having their students buy a lab kit that students brought home, and they were making, for example, a telescope in their own homes with the materials that were in the lab kit. So different courses are doing a lot of different great things to adapt to the virtual environment and with the remote environment. So you can definitely look out for that as well.
And one thing I'll also mention there is that we now have over a year of experience under our belt in terms of how to teach online. Last summer, the first full term that was offered online across Canada, Waterloo had the biggest virtual term of any university in Canada, and so much learning that took place over the summer was able to inform, what our professors offered and what our teaching assistants offered over the course of the past year. And again, if we do have online labs or online lectures or whatever that may be for some of our courses this fall, then I'm sure they'll be even better than they were over this past year too. But there's definitely been a lot of creativity, maybe not quite, the same type of learning that you would get in a lab or a lecture in person, but we're getting better and better. And we're also hoping to have you all on campus very soon as well, as long as things continue to improve, which we very much hope they do. Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming in relative to our topic for today. So I think what I'll do is open up the floor to the three of you, and you can each kind of share what you think on any last advice that you'd like to give to our prospective students, keeping in mind that we might have some grade 12s listening and we might have some younger students too, on the topic of student supports at university. So if there's one last resource you want to plug or one last tip for transitioning from high school to university that you'd like to share with our audience. Anyone like to go first? You can put your hand up and Christina can transfer it over to you. Go ahead, Andri.
All I can say is, and I'm not saying this because I'm an advisor, but it really is, if I had known this when I was in university, that there's someone in an office somewhere, like Laura said earlier, that is there to support you and help you and give you information, I think I probably would have spent a lot more time there. That's what advisors are here for. They're here to help you. There's different advisors too. There's co-op advisors when you're in co-op. There's your academic advisor. There's peer-to-peer support that, services that Leslie has talked a lot about. There's just so many resources. Take advantage of it. That's why you're here, right? That's why they're there. They're there to help you. And you can hear my children screaming in the background now. So we're getting to that hour. But yeah, take advantage of those resources. Don't hesitate. We're all here to help you and help make this a wonderful experience. So.
Mm-hmm. And your kids are not the first to show up in some backgrounds, Andri, no worries. And the one thing I'll add on is, you might worry like maybe this isn't the right person to go to for the problem that I have. But the vast majority of our staff on campus are very aware of all the other resources that are available. So just start somewhere. An academic advisor is a great place to start. And if they're not the right person, they can usually direct you to someone who is. Leslie or Kobisha? Leslie, you can go next.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that if you've thought of something while preparing for university, if you've thought of something while at university that you need help with or you have a question, guaranteed there's an answer for it out there. You might have to go through a few little stops on the way, but as Laura and Andri said, your academic advisor is a great start to that. But definitely if you're asking those questions or thinking those things or struggling in a certain area, you are for sure not the first student to do so. So just know that there are plenty of resources. There are plenty of resources maybe of the same thing, but done in a different way that maybe would work better for you. So just know that there are supports out there to help you through your time at Waterloo.
Thank you, Leslie. And we'll give the last word to Kobisha.
Yeah, I just really want to echo what everyone has been saying so far. And as a prospective student, I can understand the perspective of all of you and where you were. I was just there a few years ago, and as much as it is all of these staff members telling you, ask help, go out there, I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. As Leslie said, if you've thought of something, if you thought that you need something, it's probably been needed before, and someone can get you that help that you need and that support that you need. So whatever it may be, however little, however big you may think that problem is or that challenge is, definitely there's a resource at the University of Waterloo for it, and it's just a matter of asking and you will get to the right place.
Well, thank you so much, Kobisha, Leslie, and Andri, for all of your insight today. And if there's one thing that students are feeling when they walk away from the session, I hope it's that they feel supported, and I hope they continue to feel supported whether they end up at Waterloo or any other institution. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. As we wrap up, a few things that I wanted to share. One of them is a great blog entry that we have on our Beyond Ideas website that's called 10 Challenges You May Encounter at University. So this is a great way to kind of be aware of some of the things that might come up unexpectedly that you can perhaps think about preparing for while you're still in high school. And of course, we've got a lot of other really great content on that page as well. And I posted a link to that blog and our announcements too. Once again, Waterloo Wednesdays, we've got 3 more sessions for you in this academic year. We've got our virtual campus tours taking place every week. You can order brochures online to build your Waterloo library, and email us at liaison@uwaterloo.ca if there were any questions that you had that were not answered today or any additional details that you're looking for. Next week, we've got a very exciting subject, which is why you should accept your offer to the University of Waterloo. I think especially interesting for those grade 12 students who might have offers in hand. If you're still waiting to hear back from Waterloo, you can join that one as well, with your fingers crossed that you hopefully will get some good news from us shortly after. Yeah, we'll be able to offer you some current student insights into reasons that you might want to consider accepting your offer. Don't forget, you can connect with us over Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, including our Waterloo Wednesday video series on our YouTube channel, Experience Waterloo. And as ever, liaison@uwaterloo.ca. So I'll sign off and say thank you everyone so much for joining us, and we hope that you'll be able to be with us again next week or sometime soon. Take care.